Of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbal.
Welcome to it Wednesdays here. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Justice Rhodey, and you. Already in the green room. One Mike Babcock with Hail Varsity and Hurrdat Sports. I cannot hear what Babbers is doing. I can just see him, but I think a little working man dad might be playing in the background. We'll check in, talk some hoops and some football with Mike Babcock here. Coming up on the Wednesday edition, 425 with Babbers. In hour two, Evan Bland. Some nice projections for Nebraska baseball as the opener looms for Coach Bolton and company. Talk some football, of course, with Evan in hour two. We love talking hoops. Nebraska, big one tonight in Washington, in Seattle against the Huskies. As 9:30 tip-off, so get the pot of coffee for some of us ready. Infuse the Red Bull. Stay away from the vodka Red Bull on midweek is my advice. And we'll hit that, the hoops part, not the Red Bull and vodka, with longtime high school coach, Hall of Famer, and Nebraska assistant with the knee era, Jeff Smith, my partner doing ball games. Jeff Smith with us at 525. A Jock Talk with Dr. Brandon. We will do the head, shoulders, knees, and toes injury ailments of one Kirk Cousins. What's his future look like? How much duct tape is he going to need to keep taking snaps? Numbers to dial up, 489-1240, 489-1240 to get in, 800-825-5865. Like and subscribe. Hail Varsity YouTube. Like and subscribe. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Podcast there for you as well. Justice, you too bowled last night. And, I need my bowling fix. I did not ask Elijah how bowling went for him. I will ask you how bowling went. Was it just with some buddies? Was it for money? Was there taunting? Was there any reenactments of the Big Lebowski that went on?
So we went with, I got a late group together after work yesterday. I'm like, hey, who's down for bowling? We got a couple responses. It was all good. Our buddy from the club bowling team popped out. Man, did he mop the floor with us? Yeah,
if you got an acquaintance or a buddy that's in the club bowling scene, it's better be on his team.
Right. Right. And so we all went solo, had a couple of games because, the club bowling team was taking over at 8:30. It was on East Campus. It was free. So who am I to turn down a free, session of bowling? So me and the buddies go. And I had an ice cream bet that I had to pay out to my buddy. So I told him, I'm like, hey, let's go double or nothing today. Let's go double or nothing. I'll put my money where my mouth is. Let's see how the warm-up game goes. And if you're down, let's do it. He's like, okay. He kills everybody in the warm-up game, shoots a 135, rolls a 135, mops the floor with all of us. And he's feeling confident. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, he doesn't know. He doesn't know we were sandbagging the first game. So we go out there.
Nice.
so intentionally sandbag the first game, go out second game. And we're on a time crunch, right? We got to get this round in 16 minutes. So I get up on him early. We jump the gun. And from there, the taunting starts. I said, don't let Mike Woodson get hot. Don't let Mike Woodson get hot, because he kept getting closer and closer to that strike, but never could quite close the deal. A couple of our, favorite Indiana coaches. So we went out there and he got close. Time ran out. He ended on a spare. He lost by 2. I'm free of the ice cream bet. So that's what we were talking about. So we cheated the system and we got out of a bet, and I'm not sad about it.
The double or nothing, double scoop or nothing, away you go. So well played. Nice work. And make sure that buddy isn't lactose intolerant when you do play him next time. That's just sound advice. So we'll dive in here a little bit, and pretty interesting article that's out when it comes to On3 and the big spenders. You know what today is? Yes, it's hump day, but you know what traditionally today is? for years and years and years, it was kind of a stressful day, but it was also a good day. I remember driving up here, I was student teaching, and thank goodness the day was called on account of bad weather. So I didn't have to student teach that day, but it was National Signing Day. It was National Signing Day, and I had a day free to maneuver around and get the next wave of Nebraska recruits on the radio. And as time has marched on, it's been less and less about signing. It's not completely against or absent of high school talent. You got to have it. You need it. You need it for sure on the lines of scrimmage to retain and develop. But it is now portal mania. You just go pick up and pick out those supplements you need. Who's going to come in and play wideout, running back, quarterback, left tackle, right tackle, right guard. In Rocco Spindler's case, Nebraska able to win out there. So it's weird today where it is National Signing Day, and a few programs have their celebratory, hey, we got a 5-star quarterback, case in point, Michigan. But for years and years and years, I mean, it was down to the wire for coaches. Can you go hide a dude to keep him from Barry Switzer? Can you pry away and flip a guy from Jimbo Fisher at the 12th hour from LSU back in the day, or A&M? The urban legend of Herschel Walker being stopped at the state line so he couldn't go visit South Carolina. The infamous Barry Sanders. I shouldn't say Barry Sanders. Emmitt Smith is what I meant. But Nebraska was in on Barry Sanders. Nebraska was in on Emmitt Smith. Nebraska was in on Marshall Faulk. And today, we're not talking about high school signees. They were early enrollees. They were part of the early signing period, the high school class that Nebraska took in December. And what you have now is receipts. Who spent the most, and you have collectives. Well, On3 lays out the team, and it's no surprise because everything is bigger in Texas, especially the bank accounts. Texas, the SEC's number one collective. Texas schools in general spent a bleep ton of money. That is a quote from the On3 article. When it comes to the Big 12 NIL collectives, you've got Oregon. These are the top programs, the biggest spenders. Oregon's a big spender. A&M, yes, big time spender. They have lots of J.R. Ewings down there for Trev to make a phone call to and say, let's go get this young fella. But you've got Ohio State as well that spent $20 million a year ago. But Ryan Day will make sure you remember that, yeah, we added the quarterback and running back and safety and Caleb Downs, but Ohio State was able to have a lot of third, fourth year guys play well for him, specifically on the lines. Nebraska is highlighted here, though. Nebraska, a school that has spent, and they were able to be competitive here. Second tier spenders in the NIL world, in the SEC. You have Texas, you have Ohio State, you have Tennessee. One ACC personal staffer says Auburn spent a lot on recruiting. Obviously, Texas. Then you get into the mix with the A&Ms and Oregons of the world. The biggest thing here is it's one thing to spend money, Justice. It's another thing to spend wisely. I got the biggest kick out of signing day because I'd always talk to our late great friend Jack Pierce, one of the elite recruiters for Nebraska football. And it's Neil Smith, that's Broderick Thomas. I mean, Jack was great at what he did, and that's develop relationships with kids and help recruit for Nebraska. Well, the one thing I always remember Jack talking about that made me laugh was some of the old Southwestern Conference teams, the Rices or the Baylors, and they'd spend money on a kid that would be a backup or may not see the field at a Texas or a Texas A&M. And Jack would always say, man, they're just spending, as he insinuated, they're spending money on the wrong people. They're spending money on guys that'll never see a Saturday. and you can't go that route. Now, Georgia is a team that has a history here where they pay a little less. It's the old New England Patriots championship Georgia discount. They're good with their money. You have Coach Smart able to still pay for who he wants, but they don't typically overspend. They don't overspend to go get. They don't overspend to retain. And the thing that is big is the kids growing up, they see this Georgia program. They see Georgia in the playoff. They see Georgia winning the championship. They see Georgia beating Bama. They see Georgia on the doorstep, and they're playing in and winning meaningful games year in and year out. You look at Ohio State and Georgia. Georgia got some kids for a big-time steal. You look at some of the other notes here with Florida and Miami and Notre Dame and South Carolina. They were pretty good. Can you spend? Yes. Can you spend effectively is the key point. And that's what it's going to be all about moving forward. You can spend, you can be in the conversation. You need to be in the conversation. Nebraska is in that conversation with having a guy like Matt Rule and his staff. But can you spend effectively? And I still think Coach Saban said you better spend it on the right guy. That was something he reiterated quite a bit on College Game Day.
Yeah, that was something that he hit on. And I think in this new modern era where kids have shorter attention spans, right, and everybody's got wandering eyes, it seems like, the biggest thing is how do you spend that money, and how do you spend that money to get as many eyeballs as possible on your program? And I think that's something that Nebraska is really trying to take advantage of with a big wallet, with the 1890 Collective putting together, some big bids around some guys. We talked about Rocco in excess of $1 million is the rumor. And the thing is how can you get as many eyeballs as possible on your program? You can see Nebraska is really trying to take advantage of using some of that money into the new facilities. You can see the facility money, see where the kids take their visits. Everybody wants the picture. What kind of uniforms can they put together? How many different social media clicks can we get? Can we take pictures with the kid? What's our visit going to look like? It's a bunch of little different things. And I think when you have a well put together collective and a coaching staff that understands the modern era and how kids see and operate when it comes to recruiting and what they value in a program, I think that sets you up to be on the front lines of a new wave of college football going forward. And I think that's something that Nebraska is really trying to take advantage of.
Well, it's imperative, right? Yeah, you spend money on the right kid, and you make sure that, easier said than done, your locker room is good, right? There's jealousy and frustration and so-and-so's getting more than me. What the heck's it? I mean, so you need to navigate all of that. It's a whole new world. Let's get our starting five shout-outs going. The other Dave in first. Patrick is here. Jimmy, Uncle Jimmy is here. Happy birthday to you, Jimmy. Jimmy says, look, I've got the ribeyes, the fresh shrimp, the German chocolate cake. Jimmy, when is dinner? Have a great birthday. Jeff Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty, is in. Kobe is here. NASCAR Eric checks in, and Kobe reminds us that countdown continues, 9 days till baseball. Uncle Larry is here. Good to have Uncle Larry in. He's getting ready to go out, play a little auto hockey. Appreciate that. Ronnie is here. Arlo checks in. Captain, good to have you. Anonymous checks in, and we shift the basketball. If old Breidenbach goes for 30 tonight, Nebraska's in trouble.
Yeah.
Breidenbach. Yeah. Don't let the how do we put this nicely? the book, the cover discussion, right?
Yeah, don't judge a book by its cover.
Thank you. But you can judge a book by its first few chapters.
Yeah, you can. That you can do. That you can do. If the first few chapters aren't hooking you, it might be time to put it down and go grab a new one.
Yeah, and if Breidenbach goes for 30, there will be hell to pay.
Shock and awe.
Yes, Bruce from Spearfish is in. Let's see. Real Matthew asks a question. I don't know. No, I don't know. I'm not going to ask him that, Real Matthew. Babbers. Just because the guy likes the Grateful Dead doesn't mean he knows how to do other things.
I don't know if he's stringing along the Bill Walton lines,
right?
if
Yes,
you know what I'm saying.
Yes. Andrew is here. The other Rocco, we're going to say you're the other Rocco. Rocco checks in. QB1 Ace is here. KG says, first again. I like it. But we'll dive into some NIL thoughts, some of those recruiting, dare I say, misses, right? Because the coaches will still lament to this day the ones that got away, not the stockpile of NFL talent that they assembled during the Osborne era year after year.
Yep.
Get Babber's take on some hoops tonight as well. Big Red Baseball looms, and good to have you in. Can dial us up at 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Got the flight booked for Augusta National.
Let's go.
That is all good. Babbers is on the way. Good to be with you on a Wednesday with Hail Varsity.
Is Monster Jam. Big air, backflips, and all-out racing. Monster Jam. As big as it gets. The fun begins at the pit party, where you can meet the drivers, get autographs, take pictures, and see the trucks up close. Get your pit party pass at monsterjam.com today. Must have valid event ticket to enter pit party. Restrictions may apply. Rules and activities are subject to change. Visit website for event details. Coming to Pinnacle Bank Arena April 18th through 19th.
At Limitless Male, we started with a simple mission: to help men feel like themselves again. For too long, men have been told their testosterone levels are normal despite ongoing symptoms. When you come to Limitless Male, we don't just look at numbers. We review your symptoms and draft a personalized treatment plan. Your doctor isn't wrong, but you may need higher testosterone levels to feel your best. We've helped countless men regain their vitality. Now it's your turn. Schedule your free consult at limitlessmale.com.
Ooma. What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs. You sound very calm. I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees. Ooma. Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
1 in 4 Americans have a disability. I'm one of them. I'm also a working mom who cares deeply about making sure every child with a disability thrives by getting their access needs met. We've got a trusted ally by our side. Easter Seals provides children and families the foundation for lifelong success through early learning programs, skills training, and prep for college and career. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Join us at easterseals.com.
Have you ever wondered how estate planning could help you protect your family's future? Hi, I'm Dean Schneider, co-owner of Roper & Sons. We're hosting a free workshop at our South Lincoln Chapel on Tuesday, March 4th at 6 p.m., and you're invited. Attorney Andrew Loudon will walk you through important topics like wills, trusts, powers of attorney, and more. It's a relaxing evening where dinner will be served and questions are welcome. Reserve your spot today. Call Roper & Sons or visit us at roperandsons.com.
There's a lot on the line in a divorce. Your home, savings, retirement, maybe even kids. So when you find yourself facing divorce and the unexpected directions it can take, you really need a partner you can count on. I'm Rick Julius, a partner at Cordell & Cordell. We're committed to helping protect your personal interests and the life you've built. Don't let divorce take more than it has to. Talk to us today.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Lincoln area.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Justice Rhodey. We welcome in Mr. Husker Football. It is Mike Babcock at MD Babs on Twitter. You read him with Hail Varsity and Herd at Sports. Babbers, how weird is it as things have continued to shift that signing day, at least today, isn't really a thing for Nebraska football?
Yeah, it's used to be a big deal, as you indicated, and I always kind of look forward to that, see who Nebraska was bringing in and so forth. But I'm because of my age and because I've done this as long as I have, it's really, to me, it's disappointing that everything comes down to money now. You in the past you could talk about players playing for the name on the front of the jersey, the school. That's why they came to Nebraska. There was a reason. Part of it was that it was Nebraska, and that's you came to play for Nebraska. You had the walk-on program. That was another thing that you found out on signing day, was a list of the guys that had committed as walk-ons. You don't have that anymore. You don't really have the opportunity to bring in that many walk-ons because of the roster limitations. So it's such a big difference now, as with everything. Ken Kesey, nothing lasts.
Mm-hmm.
That was the on the bus that they had, and that's certainly true. Nothing lasts.
Well, the good news is Nebraska a mover and shaker when it comes to the NIL rundown and being big enough spenders, right, to land a top 5 portal class again and get some of those right pieces while you retain some of those guys you want to retain, and that ends up being a Keona Davis, that ends up being a guy like Van Poppel, that ends up being a guy like Emmett Johnson. Of course, you have Dylan Raiola, and you're able to kind of go get and reload a receiver room with a new set of eyeballs and a coach and an offensive coordinator, and able to go get another tackle in Pritchett as well. So depending on where you're going to get the talent from, the Notre Dames and Alabamas of the world have done some of the development for you on the lines of scrimmage.
Yeah, well, and you have to be established from the standpoint of your, how should I say this? You have to be recognizable in the world of college football in order to pull in these guys, to pull in these players. That's where the name of the school comes into play. But a lot of it is going to be one and done. You get the guy, he's looking for the one season that he's going to get paid, and he can be a difference maker for your program. And I think Nebraska has some guys in the transfer portal coming in that can be that, and it was really important to get another offensive lineman there right at the end. I think that was critical. And I think Nebraska got a good one, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be one and done, but that's still a great addition.
What do you think about one of the other additions in Mike Eckler?
Well, I was glad to see him come back, with the Nebraska background. I just think that I always use the baseball Will Bolt thing. He's a gritty beats pretty type of guy. And I think he's going to make a difference with the special teams. And I think that's important. People give it lip service, but I don't think that they really understand how important special teams play can be. And I think that he's going to make a difference in that special teams room. And I'm just happy to see the Nebraska guy coming back.
Pretty good recruiter too, with
yes.
whatever that role ends up being. Mike Babcock's with us here on Hail Varsity. Babbers, let's talk a little hoops before we get into some recruiting nostalgia. Big one for Fred and company tonight. They're favored as we speak. A chance to put a 3-game win streak together. You've knocked off 2 ranked, and a bit of a surprise. I think the fan base finding their way back through the turnstiles, back onto the bandwagon, and Nebraska's looked 12-2 form versus the 0-6. They're doing the little things. They're sharing the ball. They're playing defense, and the 2 big dogs are barking.
Yeah, well, why I bring this up every time in every discussion. I've already brought it up once, but gritty beats pretty. You had a little bit of both, I think, in those 2 victories against ranked teams, and you've got Bryce Williams and you got Juwan Gary, and what a duo offensively when they're on. I think that it is really a difficult thing for opposing teams because you've got those 2 guys that can put up 20, and then you've got some aggressive defense. Again, when they were doing well at the beginning, that defense was a big part of it, just being aggressive, and I think that's why there's optimism now. You flipped it back. It looks more like what it did early in the season. Get something going here, which you have to do if you want to accomplish some of the goals that you set for yourself.
Mike, when you look at this Washington matchup and this game in general, 9:30 tip, it's going to be 7:30 on the West Coast. It's a sleepy environment. Alaska Airlines, an arena that holds about 11,000, but might have 5, 6.5 if they're lucky. This just feels like a walking trap game for Nebraska. What do you think the strategy has to be in for Nebraska to bring their own juice and escape from Seattle with a W?
Well, I think that, Justice, I think you're right. I think that's the key is mindset. And, you've got the pieces to win the game. You can do that. But you can't just assume, well, they're not very good in the bottom of the conference. So, we're in good shape here. They don't have a lot of fans to support them. That's a positive for us. Maybe there's energy when there's a lot of fans that are getting on you. That generates some energy. But I think that's the thing is you have to bring your own. And if you do, I think you got a really good chance to win that game. You've got to bring your own energy, and you've got to take advantage of what you have there with those 2 guys that can put up the points and the other guys that, you have a pretty good off the bench couple 3 players too. So I just think that you have to bring your energy. If you do, you've got the pieces to win the game.
Babbers, when we look at Nebraska's strength, yes, defense, maybe the 2 best, for sure, best player on the court in Bryce Williams. Who do you think kind of emerges tonight, or who needs to emerge as that 3rd option? We've seen Morgan at times be the guy. We've seen Raleigh really coming off a great game against Oregon. And then there's Essegian, who's really faded a little bit, but he's just a made 3 away from getting back on that horse.
I think Essegian, I think you're going to see him kind of flip the script back to where it was. He's really a good 3-point shooter, obviously. He's an aggressive offensive player, and, it's great coming off the bench. But, again, they've got more than him coming off the bench. They can change that roster. You got Braxton Mia kind of coming home, like Breidenbach. So I think that Essegian is the guy that I look forward to step up tonight, coming off the bench and putting some points on the board.
Babo's going to wind it down with some recruiting. Emmett Smith, one that got away, ended up at Florida. Barry Sanders, one that got away, and I think Barry's scholarship went to Terry Rogers. Marshall Falk, we're talking to Trev at Media Days as I kind of looked up at the Ring of Honor at Lucas Oil Stadium. It's like, Marshall was supposed to be a a Husker. He's like, yep, and Marshall made the wrong choice. But Marshall Falk, incredible at San Diego State, and of course into the NFL, following the Roger Craig blueprint with catching and running. You could pick one. Is it even a contest? You take Barry and don't look back? What would you have imagined Nebraska's run game being with Emmett or even Marshall? Can you transport what could have been, what would have been?
Well, during the time you're talking, what could have been, but was pretty good anyway, right?
I know, but I guess that's part of the question too. It was already awesome.
Yeah.
Can it get better than it was?
I don't know. I mean, those guys were certainly, it was kind of disappointing on letter of intent signing day, to see that they hadn't made the decision to come to Nebraska. But pick any one of those guys. I'd take Barry Sanders probably.
That's my obvious
top of my list.
Yeah. Got to go with Barry.
Yeah, what a talented player.
But he sat for all but 1 year. He only started his junior year, and he ended up cranking out almost 3,000 yards. He's behind Thurman.
Yeah. They had a couple of good ones there, but I'll still take Barry. I don't care what it said. He was really a talented guy, and he had a pretty good game against Nebraska that 1 year.
I sold as much popcorn as humanly possible for Pop Warner football. Can't say what it used to be called now, apparently, but I went door to door and found my way into Memorial Stadium to see that shootout.
Yeah. What was the quarterback? I think he went to Syracuse.
Donovan McNabb.
Yeah, McNabb. He considered Nebraska, but I think he wanted to play basketball too. And
don't get Uncle Charlie cranked up, because Donovan was I think it might have been Mount Carmel guy. Yep. And was all set to come to Nebraska, because Nebraska would have had Donovan McNabb following Tommy Frazier.
Yeah.
And then you had Frost, of course. But, yeah, I think old Danny might have pulled the old grenade pin on that football, basketball thing.
I remember there was that conflict there that prevented Nebraska from getting McNabb.
Sure, you can play both. Danny, no, you can't play both.
No, you can't play both. Yes, you can. You got to. Charlie was adamant.
Babbers, we'll talk again. Appreciate you, bud.
Thanks, guys.
So you can join me for the play-by-play with coverage beginning at 7:05 right here.
FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR.
I'm Dave Wolf of the Time Shop. A sign in our store reads, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten." Every day we see watches that have been abused or damaged, some beyond repair. But if your watch is worth keeping, the Time Shop is worth visiting. We do all kinds of repairs, from battery replacement to major overhauls. And all work is done right in our store. So if you have a watch you'd like to wear and enjoy, come see us at the Time Shop, next to McDonald's, 6450 O Street, Lincoln.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. It's called the 340B Hospital Markup Program.
Hospitals mark up discounted drugs and pocket the difference, charging patients $5,000 for cancer drugs they bought for $500 and suing patients that can't pay. It's how big tax-exempt hospitals abuse the 340B program. If patients aren't benefiting, where's the money going? Learn more at 340bmarkup.org. Paid for by Pharma.
Which room in your home could use new flooring? Carpets Direct is your #1 source for all things floors, providing free in-home estimates, unparalleled service, and a 2-year guarantee. Your home should be your sanctuary, and Carpets Direct has you covered. From plush carpet, luxury vinyl, hardwood, laminate, and sheet vinyl flooring, Carpets Direct is the ultimate flooring destination. Call or visit today, South 48th Street, Lincoln.
Hey, this is Dan Bongino. As a former NYPD police officer, Secret Service agent, and a TV host, I'll bring Nebraska an honest perspective.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt and Justice Rhodey. Hail Varsity YouTube, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter, where you can follow along. And more of your comments. We'll get to those in just a moment. Game Dog says some of those that got away back in the 80s. Larry Station, of course, played some great ball at Iowa. Junior Bryant, I think he was a Creighton Prep dude that ended up at Notre Dame. Junior played some good ball for the 49ers. Jay Novacek. So here's the story of Jay Novacek that I know, because Novacek played at Wyoming, was a tight end, drafted by the Cardinals, of course, part of the triplets. You had Emmett, you had Irvin, you had Aikman, but you had Novacek killing it for Big D. And Pride of Gothenburg there, along with Uncle Andy Lundstrom. So my brother-in-law, his family grew up next to the Novaceks. And long and short, Uncle Andy always rocks the Jay Novacek jersey when how about them Cowboys are playing. But no, Game Dog, you're on, man. You are absolutely on with some of those that got away in the 80s. And I think Novacek was probably asked to walk on. I think he's like, bro, I'm going to go catch passes at Wyoming. I think Novacek played on that Wyoming team that was in Lincoln in 83, the scoring explosion season. But Nebraska ended up fine. But you don't ever want to lose out on a guy like Jay. Well, the other part of this too is you look at Nebraska's offense back then, Game Dog, and your tight end caught a pass or two, and maybe you're Gerald Armstrong, where you catch 18 passes, 9 of them are touchdowns, right, for your career. QB1A says Bo Jackson. I don't, Nebraska probably was recruiting Bo, but I think Bo ended up at Auburn because Alabama really ticked him off. And that's why he went to Auburn. Gale Sayers was not mentioned, but Ken, yes, Gale Sayers going from Omaha Central to KU. Jay Dowdy says, how about Danny Bleepin Woodhead? Could have been great. Yeah. Danny Woodhead would have been awesome. Danny Woodhead is awesome. And would have been nice. Here's the thing, like Nebraska. So you had Ken Clark, who kicked butt and took names in the late 80s. You had Doug DeBose in the mid 80s that kicked butt and took names. Jeff Smith was an NFL ball player, really good football player. So Lamar Jackson, yes, Kaz telling us that Lamar was in, right? It was between Nebraska and Louisville. And you could have had Lamar Jackson, not the defensive back. The defensive back's a good dude. He's been in studio with us before. But yeah, some of the other guys, the Pete brother, not the one that came, but the one that ended up at Stanford, the one that played for Pittsburgh, I think forever. Andres Pete, is that right?
Yes.
Is that the Pete? The one that
the Saints offensive tackle.
Yeah, well, one was with Pittsburgh that was like an all-pro for 100 years.
Yeah.
So Pete was the one that Nebraska. Haloti Ngata is the guy that Nebraska was really in on. He ended up going to BYU. No, hold on. Was it Utah? It was Utah. Utah or BYU, one of the two. Might have been. It was Utah, the state. But Ngata was Nebraska's prime target defensive tackle late 90s to try and grab him. And they did get Mania Brown, but no, Mania didn't end up finishing here. It was Oregon. Thank you. Swing and a miss there. Foul tip. Oregon. Oregon's what I meant. But he was out of Utah. QB1 ace. Yes, Switzer not getting Turner Gill. Barry still lets it go nuts whenever we talk to him about missing out on Turner Gill. Game Dog says, yep, Junior Miller was tight end late 70s, was phenomenal. Amen. If the offer was walk-on for Jay Novacek, let me go play ball for the scholarship at Wyoming. It worked out for Jay Novacek for sure.
Yeah, he was an All-American.
So
he's worked out for him.
Incredible, and probably more of a pro-style passing offense to suit his skills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ken, you're right. Stealing Tommy Frazier from Colorado, big-time game changer. As the story goes that T-Fray is all set to be head of the Colorado, and Bill McCartney didn't inform Coach Barnett or anybody really that, hey, by the way, we're changing the offense.
Oh, probably not a good move.
Going from the I formation / I bone option to a 3-wide 1-back set like the Washington Huskies and the Hurricanes were running for championships.
Right.
And listen, they had Westbrook, they had
Cordell Stewart.
They had Cordell Stewart. That Nebraska ended up taking Brooke Behringer over Cordell Stewart. So that's a little recruiting nugget. I think
Rashawn Salam.
I mean, you have Coy Detmer was the choice. Coy Detmer's little brother was the get. Coy and Ty was the Heisman winner. Coy was the choice out of San Antonio that Colorado took over Tommy Frazier.
Yeah, probably not a good move on their part, huh?
Don't change the offense. Don't change the offense. But it worked out. It worked out all right for Nebraska for sure. But I'm just trying to say, and the backs. I mean, you had the late great Calvin Jones, early '90s. You had Derek Brown. Really good running backs. You had, of course, LP, and then you had Amon Green. So that was your. And then, of course, Clinton Childs. Can't forget Clinton. You had Damon Benning. You had amazing running backs in that running back room.
Loaded room.
But you could have had Marshall Falk, 91 through 94. You could have had Emmitt Smith, 87 to 1990. I think he got drafted in 91 or 92. And then you had Barry Sanders that went 86 through 88, but started just one season for Oklahoma State behind Thurman Thomas.
Yeah, that guy was pretty good too. So no disrespect there.
So there you have it. There's been plenty of what could have been. The other story is Nebraska was out in LA recruiting Jamel Holloway.
Oh, yeah.
And Jamel apparently was kind of a hothead to his teammates, and Nebraska backed off because, his personality may not mesh with coaches. And I mean, Nebraska was fine. They ended up getting a stud, Steve Taylor, All-American.
Steve Taylor.
But
nice.
he had Jamel Holloway that was a freshman national champion, came in once Aikman got injured. So the stories of signing day gone by. Evan Bland going to be with us here in about 15 minutes. Check in with Evan, talk some Husker baseball, get some thoughts on Big Red football. And we'll get Evan's take on what Marshall Falk could have looked like in a Big Red uniform, what Emmitt Smith could have been like. We got to commandeer George Darlington sometime, Coach George, and sit him down and just say, dude, you were in on all these guys. How? Wow.
Hello from the 1011 Newsroom, Madison Pitch here. Today we're talking about a national organization with ties to Nebraska that's in the Trump administration's crosshairs for allegations of fraud. We talk with the local group who says this is unfounded. Plus, it's American Heart Month. In this week's Living Lincoln, more on how you can learn CPR. More news, weather, and sports tonight on 1011. I hope you can join us.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you get coverage options based on how much you want to pay for car insurance. And then you decide how to spend the rest of your money because you're in charge. Today, you're going to pay down your credit card bill. But you decide when you'll pay it. Before the due date, so those interest charges don't get you. But you decide if you pay it in full. But you definitely should, because again, interest charges. With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, we'll help you find coverage at a fair price. And then you're in charge. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Hey, it's Hershey from Nebraska Outdoors and your Nebraska Game and Parks, here to remind you that time spent outdoors is time well spent. Each week we dive into fishing, hunting, wildlife, and the natural history with those that know it best. Join me every Thursday night at 6 p.m. for Nebraska Outdoors on KFOR.
Now Taxes is 100% free when you file in the TurboTax app if you didn't file with us last year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just do your own taxes in the app by 2/18.
What if I have lots of forms?
All good, all 100% free.
What if I had 3 jobs?
Still 100% free.
What if I once saw Bigfoot?
That has nothing to do with taxes, so still 100% free.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Now this is taxes. See if you qualify in the TurboTax app. Excludes TurboTax Live, must start and file in app by 2/18.
Ready to spruce up your space? The Nebraska Builders Home and Garden Show is back, February 7th through the...
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Make sure you find the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play when you search Hail Varsity Radio. Catch up with Mike Babcock or past shows if you like, and find us on Twitter as well at HVarsity Radio and Hail Varsity YouTube. 489-1240, 489-1240 to get in, and a little bit about sustainability and portal purchases. We kicked off the show talking a little bit about just, Nebraska being in that mix, and Babbers nailed it about being recognizable, that Nebraska brand, despite, you're not going to, the alternative's far worse than being 7-6. You were 7-6 this year. The alternative was, another missed chance to be in the postseason when everybody seems to get into the postseason. So Nebraska hit that mile marker, but the recognition part of things is so key for Nebraska. And, Nebraska basketball, let's go there with this recognition discussion. They're recognized as what? They're recognized as having a face, a name, and a philosophy that is Fred, and Fred's seen as an offensive genius, a guy that's been in the NBA, a guy that's won big at Iowa State, a guy that played big at Iowa State. you get Nate Linzer and a great feature by BTN on Coach Nate and what he has brought from a defensive standpoint. That is what Nebraska is this year when they're on, is defensive-minded first with some guys that can make plays, and difference maker when he wants to be in Bryce Williams. He needs to be all the time. And right now, Nebraska continues to get old, stay old. I mean, they have gone and got guys from other programs, and they've kind of gone the Signetti route where they've taken dudes from lower level, at least where they play, programs, implemented them into the Big Ten. Now, Walker, of course, was a Tennessee dude, but Sam Griesel was a North Dakota State standout. He came in, kind of poured the concrete. Nebraska's gone that route, Justice, where they bring in guys that are quite capable playing of playing at the Big Ten level, and they've Tominaga for sure. I mean, he was a guy you had, and then you developed, and last year was special. But at some point, Nebraska is going to have to go get, and we'll talk with Coach Smith about this, some of that in-state talent. You had some generational talent that's been elsewhere a couple of different times. Guys you'll see playing in the NBA here in the not too distant future. But listen, the hit rate in the portal is hard. The hit rate out of high school is really hard. And at some point, Nebraska, I think we agree, will need to land a high school guy that if he does have to redshirt in a era where kids don't want to redshirt, keep a guy or two around from a high school ranks to start building while you supplement. Eventually, it'll have to flip, or you have to continue to be really good at your evaluation.
Right, and that's the thing. Like with Fred going in this portal pirate direction, he's had to make some evaluating decisions, and he's hit on a couple. He hit on Jawan Gary in the transfer portal. He's hit on Bryce Williams in the transfer portal. So he's got, and Rink Mast for sure. So he's gone out and gotten guys. Now he's starting to go into the high school ranks and find guys that fit that play style. Now it's about, can you blend the two to get your program to that next level?
All right, Evan Bland on deck. Husker baseball, Big Red football thoughts. Hour 2 on the way with Hail Varsity.
New shoes because of pain and discomfort in your ankles, knees, hips, feet, or lower back? Maybe you don't need new shoes. Maybe you need high-quality support in your shoes. That's where the Good Feet store can help you, like Teresa.
I was in foot pain for 20 years, trying to give it relief, buying all these different insoles. I bought all these products, and not a single one worked. I really, truly needed to have relief in my feet, and the Good Feet arch supports were what gave me the relief I needed. I can wear these arch supports in all my shoes. Cowboy boots, running shoes, walking shoes, flat shoes, heels. It makes me so happy. If you ask my husband, he will crack up because there is no store I would rather go in than a shoe store.
Live the life you love. Come to the Good Feet store today. Visit the store at 27th and Pine Lake Road across from South Point Mall, or book your free fitting at goodfeet.com. Good Feet arch supports are proudly made in the USA. Come in and take a free test walk today.
Hi, this is Jeff Mall with Visit Lincoln. Lincoln's coffee shops are bustling hubs to gather and to relax and enjoy delicious beverages. Their unique, warm, and inviting shops are full of laughter, quiet conversation, and the inviting scent of freshly brewed coffee and perhaps a pastry. Back for its second year, Lincoln Coffee Week celebrates coffee in all corners of our community, from Havelock to College View, downtown, and more. Each owner and their baristas will have specials for coffee all week and are ready to host you. The anticipation after last year's event has been building all year, and it's almost here. From February 9th through the 15th, stop by 23 participating locations, sample your favorites, or try a new one with a chance to win a $250 gift card to a coffee shop of your choice. Your digital passport to caffeine is available at lincoln.org/Coffee Week. Spread the word, let your coworkers know and friends, and prepare yourself for all things coffee. I'm proud of tourism in our community, and it's one more thing I enjoy about life in Lincoln. I'm Jeff Mall.
Lincoln's local news, talk, sports, and weather station. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR, and KFRX HD3, Lincoln.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Protests today at state capitals nationwide and outside government agencies in Washington, D.C., demanding protections against the Elon Musk-led Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and the Labor Department, the latest agencies now in the crosshairs. Sarah M. works at the Labor Department and says she thinks the Tesla CEO has other motives for possible cuts and layoffs.
I know that Elon Musk is targeting the Labor Department because he's scared of us. Tesla has had 3 times as many OSHA violations as the next 10 auto workers combined.
ABC's Jay O'Brien has more.
There is this ongoing sense from the federal employees we've talked to here, and a lot of them, frankly, don't want to go on camera because they're worried about retaliation. There is this sense from them that they are at risk and their jobs are at risk.
A Maryland judge today issuing a nationwide injunction on President Trump's efforts to limit birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment.
Judge Deborah Boardman says the denial of the precious right of citizenship will cause irreparable harm. Her order blocks a move that would begin affecting babies born later this month to mothers who are either in the country illegally or even lawfully on student or work visas.
ABC's Stephen Portnoy. Some GOP lawmakers have come out in support of President Trump's suggestion that the U.S. take over Gaza for redevelopment. Members of Israel's hard-right government have come out in favor. Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the top Palestinian envoy at the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, firmly rejecting that idea, saying Palestinians will rebuild.
The Gaza Strip is not a free land for anyone to grab it. The Gaza Strip, it belongs to the Palestinian people and the Palestinian people who live in the Gaza Strip.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio today described President Trump's plan as generous. Winter advisories stretching from Nebraska to New England into the coming days. You're listening to ABC News.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
A couple of serious crashes just outside of Lincoln. Hello, I'm Will Wilson. It's 29 degrees at KFOR. 2 serious crashes this morning in eastern Lancaster County. Sheriff Terry Wagner tells KFOR News deputies and rescue units were called shortly after 9:30 to the first crash near Nebraska Parkway and Highway 2 at about 120th Street.
A single vehicle injury accident. The vehicle rolled. The driver was ejected.
The driver was taken to a Lincoln hospital with life-threatening injuries. Then at about 10 o'clock, another single vehicle crash happened around 82nd and Martell Road, where a 32-year-old woman and her 2 small children were in an SUV that rolled. The people in that crash on Martell Road suffered minor injuries and all were buckled up. Wagner says these crashes appear to be weather-related. This week's Crime Stoppers report from Lincoln Police takes a look at the burglary from last Wednesday night that happened inside G&G Smoke Shop at 27th and Randolph, which was captured on video.
The cameras there captured an individual carrying like a green 5-gallon work bucket, kind of like the Home Depot orange, but a green version. And they used what appeared to be some kind of pry bar to smash open that front glass door right on the busy street.
LPD forensics technician Becky Keller says the suspect climbed inside and ran to a display where they loaded up over $1,500 worth of various products. The individual stashed a bike nearby, and once the burglary was completed, jumped on the bike and rode off northbound on South 27th Street. Video of this case can be found with this story at KFORnow.com. Tracking the level of respiratory illnesses in the community has been enhanced by the Lincoln Lancaster County Health Department on their data dashboard.
Dashboards help increase the availability of timely public health data and turn it into a valuable and visual resource for the public and partners.
Health Director Carrie Kernan says those enhancements include wastewater surveillance data for flu, RSV, norovirus, and other diseases. Data from the COVID-19 dashboard has been moved to the respiratory illness dashboard and is now under the COVID-19 category. Winter weather advisory until 6 tonight. Cloudy overnight with a low near 22. I'm Will Wilson, KFOR News.
These These are today's top headlines.
President Trump's dream of taking over Gaza has lawmakers and the world worried. The CIA begins its downsizing by offering buyouts to its entire workforce. Global deliveries of food and medicine take a hit with USAID closures worldwide.
Don't miss a thing. Stay connected for whatever's next.
News that affects you. On air and on demand. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR.
Keep up with the local news, sports, your favorite talk shows, and pro shows on KFOR wherever you roam. Stream us 24/7 at KFORnow.com or on your mobile. You can download the free iHeart or TuneIn app and stream KFOR on the go.
The following is a paid program. Content is provided by Hurrdat Media and may contain pre-recorded material. The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbal.
Back with you, it's hour two. Chris Schmidt and Justice Rhodey. Evan Bland with us as he's with the Omaha World Herald. Of course, the Pick Six podcast at Evan Bland, OWH. Game Dogs reminding me that Emmitt Smith ran a 4.640. Evan, it's typically signing day, right? I mean, it's still signing day. It's just, well, not signing day here today. And kind of going through the trio of Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, Marshall Faulk. All three were down to the wire decisions for Nebraska. And now Nebraska was fine, but do you ever stop and go, well, all right, how much more fine would Nebraska have been with either Emmitt, either Barry, or either Marshall Faulk? Now, Ken Clark was amazing, Doug DeBose amazing, Amon Green, Lawrence Phillips, Calvin Jones, Derek Brown. They were, Clinton Childs. Nebraska was fine. But I mean, those are some names we just threw out that were supposed to maybe head to Lincoln.
Yeah, I kind of miss the old signing day dramas of yore where you just didn't know. Like even I remember like in 2017, I wrote a thing about how they had like a dozen guys that were making decisions on the first Wednesday in February. Diamador Lenore's the one that always comes to mind for me. He went to Oregon and is just thriving in the NFL now. But yeah, all the what if moments are pretty interesting. The Falk one, especially so because it was like that he was just misevaluated, right? Like that wasn't the story there that Nebraska saw him as a defensive back and he wanted to play running back. And so he bet on himself and, has a Hall of Fame professional career. So like that one I think hurts maybe a little more because, and maybe he's on record, I don't know, but like if Nebraska just said, hey, yeah, you can give it a go at running back, like would he have come? Would it have been that simple? I don't know. But that's definitely one that hurt. Ultimately, they had their 90s run, but man, that's an interesting what if.
Well, and the evaluation wasn't even really a misevaluation. It was one of the coaches who coached a certain position group making a comment, and I love this coach, so I'm not going to just hammer him. He's mentioned it before on the show, but it wasn't Charlie, so we're playing narrow it. But it's like, man, I bet you can backpedal. Something as benign as that was the turnoff.
Yeah. Right. Like that's
not, man.
Like, it's one thing to just be like, hey, you got out recruited by whomever. It's another thing to say, yeah, if you would have just seen him as a future, whatever, like future star at that position, man, that'd be a tough one to live with, man. I know coaches, you get some, you miss some, but man, that'd be one that would stick in your craw for probably decades after.
Well, dear friend, the late great Jack Pierce was, all over New Orleans. That was his territory, and that's where Marshall came from. And dude can carry the football. Dude can catch the football. But what's crazy is it's not just Nebraska. It's like Nebraska. It was Miami. It was somebody else, and then it was San Diego State. Now, I'm all for going to San Diego for 3.5 years. That'd be incredible. That being said, the U and Nebraska, said, well, maybe defensive back if running back doesn't work out. Emmett was apparently wearing a red jumpsuit and maybe a grocery bag full of money, allegedly, found its way. Just pre-NIL.
Right.
But now you can just have grocery bags full of money and it's okay. What do you think, Evan, in Nebraska? Of course, anonymously, the On3 story, Nebraska top 7 in spending. And I say good for Nebraska, good for 1890, good for Matt Rule. And it's just this new era where you got to be competitive. And Nebraska's made some nice portal additions. We'll see how it shakes out in 2025.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the last couple of years, if we haven't learned that spending equals a better chance at winning, I don't know what we're watching. I mean, look at the CFP this last year, obviously Ohio State and their roster widely reported to be north of 20 million for that particular group. Texas obviously spent a lot of money. Notre Dame, these weren't teams that sort of nickeled and dimed their way to this point. They spent a lot of money on players and on coaches and on facilities. And I think that's it's interesting because that's a transition that we've seen Nebraska make, I think, over the last handful of years, right? They historically were never a school to pay top dollar necessarily for any of its coaches. Their facilities were good, but they were rarely immaculate during their heyday. And so now, you're getting to that point where you have to have a payroll and you're not going to go out and have the success that they did in the portal, shoring up all these positions, just on sort of the old recruiting pitches of academics and facilities and all that. You're going to have to start the first part of the conversation has to be, are you going to be competitive with the NIL money or the rev share money? And it doesn't mean you always have to be the top bidder. I think, you look at some of the comments from Rocco Spindler's camp, he probably could have made more money elsewhere. But if you're at least in the ballpark and you're competitive, then some of those other things do come into play. So I think we're seeing Nebraska show a willingness to spend in all sorts of areas related to football in terms of staff expansion around that rule, what they want to do with the stadium, changing turf, nutrition investment. These are all things that you don't have to necessarily spend in, but if you want to find that edge, find that little bit of inefficiency to move up toward the top of college football, man, you're going to have to foot a pretty big bill. And, Nebraska's shown a willingness to do it. And I think their donor base, led by 1890, is showing that they can be competitive with most programs in the country, which I don't know that people would have assumed that to be the case even a few years ago.
Evan, what kind of indication does this give you about Matt Rule's relationship with the donor base, with the athletic director, Troy Dannon, with the collective in 1890? It finally feels like this Nebraska football program is vertically aligned and everybody's on the same wavelength. What kind of beat do you get from Matt Rule's relationship with all these different parties?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of branches of government where if you have different branches that are looking at different things, then you're going to probably have a lot of vetoes and deadlocks and things like that. This is a situation where the AD is very much in line with Matt Rule and they're very much in line with what the donors want, the high end money contributors. So you're not spending this level of money if any one of those parties is hesitant about that. I think there's a unified belief for what we just said, that spending is going to be what's required in this time. And maybe it's not always super comfortable. Maybe that's not what you're used to. These things would have been against the rules overtly not all that long ago, but you have to adapt and adjust. And Nebraska's has a track record of being at the front end of a lot of innovations in college football, all the way back to strength training and the walk-on program and things like that. And so I think there was a willingness to be flexible in this area. And it's probably uncomfortable for a lot of people, but you have to credit Matt Rule for setting the vision and for everybody else supporting that, knowing that, hey, again, if you want to be in that conversation for a CFP spot, if you want to be competitive in the Big Ten, this is kind of just the cost of doing business. This is the price of admission. And so I think Nebraska's shown that it's all in, that it's not afraid to spend more and sort of branch out from its history of sort of doing more with less. And so we'll see how it pays off. But, again, you look at the portal additions and some of the ways that they're financing this behemoth of a football program, it does seem like it's lining up for more success moving forward. And, that's going to be one of the fun parts about 2025.
Evan Bland with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald, at Evan Bland, OWH on Twitter, and Pick Six Podcast, of course. And Evan, I want to talk Mike Eckler, and you mentioned set the vision. He's got a vision that's produced wherever he's been, be it his linebacker play or his special teams production in all phases of that unit. What do you think? Why? Let me ask you why. Why do you think Mike Eckler's able to be so good at coaching special teams, be it the return side, the coverage side, and the non-kick blocking side? Why is Eckler so great at this?
I mean, I think it starts with, like, he loves it, right? Like, that he loves special teams, and like, it sounds obvious, but you know what? Like, Nebraska in the last 10 years has had a number of guys who didn't maybe want to do special teams. Like, that was kind of their second thing. They were a position coach and they did something else, or an analyst did it. Like, I think that's honestly where you start, where, like, he wanted to make his career about that, and has the energy and the enthusiasm to be about that, to be on guys, about making special teams cool, right? Like, it's not about just sort of getting on the field for some younger guys who are trying to make a difference. It's about, like, convincing the starters, hey, make a difference, make an impact on punt block or whatever it might be. And so, I mean, he's got that energy. That part was obvious from when he was at Nebraska and when he moved on, all the way back to when he was a player at Kansas State, running through walls for Bill Snyder to rile up the team. So, like, that's part of who he is. That's how he's hardwired. And then obviously you add in the track record at Tennessee specifically. In the last 4 years, they've been really good in a lot of those areas. I think maybe one kick blocked in his 4 years there. To me, one of the parts that gets my attention is the success he had with the return game, especially on the punt side. Like, that had become an asset for Tennessee, and maybe it wasn't necessarily before he got there. And so they were able to flip some fields and find a way to get some extra yardage there. And Nebraska, I mean, that's been an area that's been dormant for them since DeMorney Pearsonell was around bringing back kicks. So, like, I think you bring in a guy like that who can one, if he does nothing other than remove some of the catastrophic mistakes that Nebraska's had, getting kicks blocked, giving up touchdown returns, like, that's a heck of a place to start. But then if you can go beyond that and actually make that third unit an asset and help you gain some field position and maybe bust a long one and give you a touchdown or set up a field goal that you didn't expect, like, that's going to be huge. And even more so in this current climate where, I mean, how many games last year did we watch that Nebraska played and throughout the Big Ten or the SEC that came down to one possession, a couple of plays here or there? And if you can be Nebraska and make a couple more of those plays instead of having them made on you, I mean, that can swing multiple games. So he's a guy who comes in with a track record, enthusiasm. He's been to Nebraska. He knows the history of the program, the landscape. It's a really strong hire, and many have tried and many have failed at getting this thing back on the right path in the last 15, 20 years. And we'll see if Eckler's up to the task. But I think on paper, he checks all the boxes that you're looking for.
No, you put that perfectly, Evan. Going to go to baseball here. Final couple of minutes. D1 has Nebraska right there with Oregon, projected possible regional host. And, what in your opinion here is we're, 9 days away, 8 days away from first pitch. What'll be a difference maker for Nebraska baseball this season if they are to have success?
I mean, I look at the pitching side. I think when you have a team like Nebraska that's so veteran on both sides, like you look for, okay, where can they take that next step? And they were decent offensively, not a huge power team. They're a squad that's going to push the envelope, stealing bags and hitting runs and taking walks and things like that. To me, the area that they can take that next step when you talk about going from a regional 2 seed to potentially hosting is on the pitching side. And you lose Brett Sears, who was the Big Ten pitcher of the year, but you bring back Mason McConaughey, who's a preseason All-American. I think they have big things in store for Ty Horn, who had just a dominant summer and fall. And just across the board under Rob Childress, who's now in his second year back, like there's just a ton of quality depth. And so I think a lot of those roles are going to have to shake out in the first month, as they usually do for most college teams. But it seems like there's an ability now to fill some of those later innings. Luke Broderick, who comes in as a junior college addition, is the likely closer. He's a swing and miss guy who's pretty high on professional draft boards in a year or two. So you look for some immediate help from him. And then, you have so many older guys now that you can actually start a junior or a senior on a Tuesday and a Wednesday and have a reasonable expectation of a quality start. So to me, that's kind of where you start with those guys. You look at, again, the off season, so many of them took big strides forward in terms of their command and their velocity. And you have a guy in Childress who, was the architect of the best staffs Nebraska ever had in the 2000s. So I think all that adds up to Nebraska potentially taking that next step. And if you get maybe just a little bit better defensively and you do sort of what you have done on offense, the schedule lines up to where if you win some of these games, the selection committee is going to look at you pretty favorably.
Love that. That's a nice look. A lot of excitement for Husker baseball, Husker softball. And Evan will be on top of it. Evan, we'll holler next week. Appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Yep, see ya.
There he is, Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald, at Evan Bland, OWH. Find him for all your coverage. Jeff Smith, Husker basketball next.
Retire Smart, inviting you to join me and Chip Maxwell every Saturday morning at 7 or Sunday mornings at 6 for the Retire Smart radio show. We'll provide you answers to your most pressing retirement questions and help you navigate ever uncertain financial times. Don't just retire, retire smart. That's Saturday mornings at 7 or Sunday mornings at 6.
Investment advisory services offered through Smart Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor.
Which room in your home could use new flooring? Carpets Direct is your #1 source for all things floors, providing free in-home estimates, unparalleled service, and a 2-year guarantee. Your home should be your sanctuary, and Carpets Direct has you covered. From plush carpet, luxury vinyl, hardwood, laminate, and sheet vinyl flooring, Carpets Direct is the ultimate flooring destination. Call or visit today, South 48th Street, Lincoln.
Are you just as confused as I am about low T remedies? There's so much nonsense.
Order here, call here, text this number. How would you know who is best? The experts at Limitless Mail are the best. It's what they do. It's all they do. They would never throw a bottle of pills at you and say, try this. Limitless Mail monitors your symptoms and levels and makes adjustments so you feel your absolute best. Trust the experts. Schedule your free consult at limitlessmail.com.
Jackson Hewitt makes taxes feel like a yacht rock song.
Give me my biggest tax refund, please. You, me, and a lifetime accuracy guarantee.
And now get $100 just to try Jackson Hewitt. Does your tax person do that?
Say goodbye to that no guarantee tax guy.
Ready to sail through tax season? Go to Jackson Hewitt and you'll be
the refund.
Limited time offer for new clients. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
Culligan has a long history of providing custom solutions to address the area's water worries. Local water issues, including PFAS, arsenic, nitrates, and bacteria, can wreak havoc on your home and health. You can trust Culligan to deliver better water solutions and better service. No one else offers the combination of local expertise and industry-leading technology like Culligan. Contact Culligan for water you love. Contaminants may not be in your water.
Hi, it's Jill St. James. It's never too early to plan your next summer home improvement project. And if you need to replace your tired, inefficient windows, I recommend Heartland of Nebraska Windows. Start with a visit to their booth at the Home and Garden Show, February 7th through the 9th. Talk with Gary, Ethan, or Tracy at booth 1415 and save 10% with their show discount. You can get more expensive windows from a bigger
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Justice Rhodey, Hall of Fame coach and assistant at Nebraska. Partner when you hear us on KFOR locally doing high school basketball. Jeff Smith with us. Coach, how's it going? Thanks for the time. Coach, we got you.
Should still have him. Coach, do we have you?
Yep.
Coach, do you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Gotcha.
They got me now. All right.
Yep.
So, hey, it's Nebraska. It's Washington. It's only been 100 years, it feels like. You ready for tonight?
Definitely. Yeah. I kind of like the late night games. It's just, I just think everybody's ready to sit down and watch some hoops. I know it'll, I took my 20-minute nap today to get ready for tonight.
I had to sneak one in. There's odds on the Hail Varsity stream here that I won't make it to the end of the second half. Just because
that's what recordings are for.
I know, right? Just set it and forget it, as they say. But let's talk about this turnaround, this flip, and Nebraska got back to doing the little things, Coach Smith, and what was, I guess, what finally got through. And in your coaching experience, you've been in the locker rooms that Fred's been in, where you're on a streak the wrong way, and something flips. What can you point to or put your finger on?
Well, I think in today's game, especially when you're bringing in 6 or 7 new players every year, and you're learning about their skills, the opponents are learning about their skills. I think it's a season that involves adjustments a little bit more. So I think last time I was on, we were just kind of starting that losing streak, and it looked like, and I think I said, people are they're taking away Bryce Williams. They're letting Raleigh shoot a little bit. They're backing off of some of the guys that, Juwan, and they'd rather have him shooting threes and taking ball to rim. Mm-hmm. And that affected us. That when Raleigh was at the point, they were flattening out. It almost looked like a zone or a box and one or a diamond and one on Bryce. So that's a big adjustment. The coaches recognized it. I was all in favor of getting Sam in the lineup, not for that he's going to be extremely productive, but one, he brings a ton of energy. 2, he shoots 42% from the 3, where Raleigh shoots 22%. So they have to go out and guard him a little bit. They moved Bryce to the point, handle the ball a lot more so he can get penetration from the get-go if he wants to. And then I think Bryce had to adjust to his game, where, you used to tell players a lot, let the game come to you, take what they give you. Well, they weren't going to give him anything. So I think they coached up Bryce a little bit, like, you've got to go take it. You've got to be creative. You've got to take some risk with some moves and be more aggressive with your moves and shoot overhand a little bit more, because you're capable of doing that. And so he got his confidence back. It opened the floor up a little bit more with Sam on the floor and maybe giving Connor a few more minutes. And I love Braxton's defensive presence and his physicality, But again, they were starting to foul him when he'd get in range to shoot, and he's shooting a horrible percentage from the free throw line. So it looks like Raleigh's really comfortable coming off the bench. He gives us a spark defensively. He handles it well. He's a pretty good free throw shooter, but he just opening the game and giving him that many more minutes, they could back off and leave him open, and it clogged things up for Bryce. And Juwan couldn't get drives as easy either. And then I think Juwan, he goes in cycles. Sometimes he'll shoot 6 threes in a game, and then like Oregon, he gets to the rim and gets 12 free throw attempts. And that's the Juwan everybody likes to see, I think, from Nebraska standpoint.
Yeah, Coach, when you look at this roster, and a lot of the effort and part of the turnaround has been the intensity on the glass. When you go back to the Illinois game, watching some of the technicality stuff, the box out and the effort and the mentality rebounding-wise seems so much better going into that. Do you see that playing a factor as well in Washington? And what have they adjusted to help make this team a lot more successful on the glass and closing off defensive possessions?
Yeah, Berkay's a good rebounder, and he's leading us in rebounding, but rebounding is always it's a 5-man effort, and it's reacting when the ball leaves your hand. I always talked about shot, right? When you were in my class, I talked about one of the biggest things for me as a coach was shot reaction. Mm-hmm. If you hesitate 1 second when it leaves the hand, you aren't going to get to the rim, and you're not going to get a good box out. So what I saw was quicker reactions when they're going into their shooting motion to get more offensive rebounds and getting into people a little bit. And then it's also, Sam Hoiberg's small, but he's just such a physical little guard, and so is Raleigh. And I think they've really. And then losing six in a row, you get desperate, right? You get pissed off, you hope, and then that increases your physicality and your want to, and that's what rebounding is want to.
Jeff Smith with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Hall of Fame coach, assistant during the Danny Nee era. What do you see tonight for Nebraska? What can they do against Washington offensively, defensively, flip it around? Because anyone can beat anybody on a given night, it feels like, in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think they just continue with Bryce, having the ball in his hands more and being creative. Washington is, they're kind of long and athletic. But Tyler Harris kid's 6'8", and will probably try to guard Bryce some, and their point guard's 6'6", and so their length could be a factor. The guy named Great Osabor, he's leading him in 4 categories. I think he's 4th in the league in steals. He's 6'8", 250. He's kind of a Charles Barkley type for us older people. Really versatile game. I think they've got to control him on drives and get in front of him, and hopefully, maybe draw a charge or two on him, keep him off the glass. Maybe let him shoot threes because he's okay at it, but not as good as around the rim. So I think it starts with defending him, and then I think in their place, I think getting off to a good start is going to be huge. That we show that confidence and maybe shake theirs a little bit. That we're going to continue to play well like we have the last 2 games, and we got a good road win over at Oregon, and we got the line 29 times, so we're going to continue to attack and make you guard us. And I think we can win that way. That if we offensively attack keep attacking the paint, don't worry about how many threes you get. We'll take those twos because we're a good 2-point team. Juwan's a better 2-point player than he is a 3-point player. Bryce is both, and if we get some threes from Sam and from Connor, great. But on the defensive end, you always want to take away break on the road so any crowd doesn't get into it and they don't get, jacked up a little bit about it. And so establish that defense. I do think I haven't talked to Coach Linzer about it, but I think we've pushed out our pressure a little bit more because of the 3-point run that teams had against us on our losing streak. I think we've tried to push them out a little bit more defensively. And I don't think, again, I haven't talked to Coach, but I don't think we've invited the baseline drive quite as easy. I think we've adjusted our stance and made them work a little harder on that drive because I think we're getting in rotations too often. And I think that people were starting to figure that out. So I think we've reduced our rotation percentage probably and we can stay matched a little bit better. But I do feel like, to finish this up with my long answer, I do feel like Osabor posts, when he posts, our double team should be effective. And I like it when our opponents have a big that wants to post up and we can go trap, because I think we're extremely good at it. We've showed that in our history of Coach Lenzer's defense.
Jeff Smith with us here on Hail Varsity Radio.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask you real quick, looking more long-term at this Fred Hoiberg program, we've known him as kind of a portal pirate where he goes out and he swashbuckles his way in with a big NIL check, and he, evaluates talent. He gets guys in, and he's had some success in getting into the high school ranks and finding some guys that he likes in his program and going the JUCO route. What do you think is the sustainability factor of this portal invasion that Fred's on? Do you think maybe at some point he's going to have to blend it more with some of the high school ranks, or do you think he could ride this out a little bit longer?
I think he can ride it a little longer, but I think there has to be some blend. I think, obviously, I think if we all went back and even the coaches went back, even Coach Miles, and we missed on some kids, we missed on those Omaha kids when they had, as Chris said earlier, generational talent. Those kids are talented, and some of them needed some development and got that, like at Northern Colorado and, some of those other schools. But yeah, I think you have to see that. And, like when we recruited Terrence Badgett a long time ago, he was a diamond in the rough, but he was just so athletic, and he was an Omaha South kid. We wanted him. We wanted him in our program, and we felt like we could develop him, and we worked hard to do that, develop his ball handling, develop his shooting. But then we have an Omaha South kid that's loyal to us and plays his butt off for Nebraska. And I think, I don't know if we have that talent in the state right now, but if it comes along, I think we got to build with those high school kids. Look at the difference. Sam Hoiberg being kind of a Lincoln kid, pretty much, and Sam Griesel being a Lincoln kid, and they've made a difference in the program, because I think that loyalty just spreads throughout the team of what this means to them and how they want to play for these unbelievable fans that keep filling up that arena. I think we have to have that. And so I think there has to be a really good balance. You've got to take some of those portal talents like Bryce and Jawan, and we needed to get older, and they've kind of done that with the portal. So now can we develop those kids that we recruit out of high school? That's the question.
Coach, about 60 seconds. We're into February. March looms. The number needs to be what? These final few. Is Nebraska 7-2 get it handled going off to the Big Ten?
I've always been if you've done decent in your non-conference, which the Creighton win, it was huge, and it was a little easy. That non-con could have been a little tougher, but I've always felt 500 in the conference, in this kind of a conference, will get you in. That'd get us 20 wins if we go 6-3, which that's not an easy task in this league. But we got to win. I think we got to win 6 more to get in, and not huge sweat maybe. But you look at that remaining regular season, and you don't know in this league. You don't. I think this is a big game tonight because it is winnable. I think Ohio State at home. We have Ohio State at home and Ohio State on the road. We got to split those, at least. Then you got to sneak one, maybe Northwestern or at Penn State, and then you got to take care of business with Minnesota and Iowa at home, and it's not easy. But I just think we got to go 500 in the league.
Oh, I totally agree, and it's a big ask. Coach, we'll see you this weekend. Thanks for the time.
You bet. Thanks, fellas.
Friday night, Lincoln High is at Lincoln East. I'm Jeff Modes. You can join me for the play-by-play with coverage beginning at 7:05 right here.
FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR.
Are you tired of buying new shoes because of pain and discomfort in your ankles, knees, hips, feet, or lower back? Maybe you don't need new shoes. Maybe you need high-quality support in your shoes. That's where the Good Feet store can help you. like Teresa.
I was in foot pain for 20 years, trying to give it relief, buying all these different insoles. I bought all these products and not a single one worked. I really, truly needed to have relief in my feet. And the Good Feet arch supports were what gave me the relief I needed. I can wear these arch supports in all my shoes. Cowboy boots, running shoes, walking shoes, flat shoes, heels. Makes me so happy. If you ask my husband, he will crack up because there is no store I would rather go in than a shoe store.
Live the life you love. Come to the Good Feet store today. Visit the store at 27th and Pine Lake Road across from South Point Mall, or book your free fitting at goodfeet.com. Good Feet arch supports are proudly made in the USA. Come in and take a free test walk today.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
1 in 4 Americans have a disability. I'm one of them. I'm also a working mom who cares deeply about making sure every child with a disability thrives by getting their access needs met. We've got a trusted ally by our side. Easter Seals provides children and families the foundation for lifelong success through early learning programs, skills training, and prep for college and career. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Join us at easterseals.com.
Surprise! Your expenses this month were way higher than you expected. Also, you forgot to renew your website domain, and now you're in a bidding war.
You should see the look on your face.
At Progressive, we know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Plus, the fridge died in the break room, and now everything smells weird. All right.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Back in Thursday with KFOR, Schmidt, Carol, and Jeff.
More details on President Trump's visit
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity. We say hi to Dr. Brandon Seifert. It's a Jock Doc Wednesday, Nebraska Orthopedic Center. You want to talk walking wounded, Dr. Brandon? Kirk Cousins, duct tape and guts. Is that fair?
That is a great description, Chris. This poor guy, he is a beast. I mean, the fact that he made it back from his original terrible injury way in the past is just a testament to this guy's character. And it's truly amazing. I think I would have pegged his return to the football after that horrible injury way less than 10%, and he has gone way beyond that. He's done so well.
Well, we talk Achilles. Now, one thing that Kirk can do is Kirk can buy his own duct tape because he's signed several contracts that have, he can sleep on a bed of money. But Cousins limited, of course, had that torn Achilles in week 8 of 2023. It healed well. His right ankle never felt right in 2024. Elbow issues on his throwing arm in week 11. Got benched, of course, for Penix by Atlanta. At one point, Atlanta was 6-3. I want to go to this right ankle issue, Dr. Brandon. Because either the ankle, and I'm not sure if it was right or left foot with the Achilles, I don't remember, but just either way, the off ankle of the Achilles or the same region as the torn Achilles. Let's go there as to the discomfort here that has lingered for him.
Yeah, it sounds like it was, pretty significant. It just, the way he is, he just pushed through it. I don't think he said a whole lot about it. And then he did mention it here recently in the article we were reviewing. So as you look at kind of Achilles injury, how does that maybe mesh with either ankle injury on the same side versus other? Clearly after an Achilles injury, the mobility is different. Some of that explosiveness is definitely different. And then also you can have even some flexibility issues. So for example, if that's on the operative side and he didn't completely regain the mobility back in his ankle, then that puts a lot of extra stress on the ankle, makes you more prone to having some of these other injuries show up. And that may be part of what he's dealing with at this point.
Let's talk age as well. No spring chicken. Kirk Cousins, I think, was a part of the last top 10 team, second to last top 10 team. Nebraska beat in Memorial Stadium both Michigan State teams. His team was a team that came in and got knocked off by Levante David and crew. That goes back, well, a decade plus. Age, what are you noticing? What are you seeing with the old Father Time and injuries that linger or injuries that pop up with quarterbacks?
Yeah, and so a lot of these knee injuries do start to pile up. You think about all the hits they're taking, the cuts, the abuse that's gone through their knees. So knees are definitely big issues. You start to age. I hate to use the term age out in the NFL. That's a big deal. How's that for a nice description? Outside of that, the other thing you worry about too is you're talking specifically a thrower. So you do worry about a lot of the shoulder injuries that have happened. One, just from all the years of throwing. Two, obviously all the abuse of being tackled, knocked down, landing on that shoulder, all those kinds of things, plays a big impact as well. And so those would be some things I worry about with him. And you really are reaching that point now where he's going to start to probably break down a little bit more. I know he's really struggled here as of late, but as a team, thinking about drafting him, you start to have some questions about how durable is he going to be for you, especially as we're talking now about all these new injuries that he's had.
Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us, a Jock Doc Wednesday, Kirk Cousins and all the things he went through injury-wise in Atlanta off of that second monster contract, 4-year, $180 million deal, $90 million guaranteed. And you know what? He's not going to be in Atlanta, not sure where he'll end up. So when we look at what kind of was the final straw, so to speak, with his injury history in 2024, Dr. Brandon, week 11, that right shoulder, that right elbow, is that something that, talk to me about the hits you see at quarterback with the shoulder injury, but also the elbow. Is it as simple as landing wrong on both spots, taking a helmet to the shoulder, or is it a situation where it's just overuse? And I talk about overuse throughout his career because, like we've said, he is a thrower. He's a pocket guy. Age combined with just the amount of passing attempts he's had in his career.
Yeah, so as I look at shoulder injuries, there's definitely two spectrums there. There's the, abuse of being hit, knocked down, landing on the shoulder, and that's more on what we call the AC joint side. That's where the collarbone comes up and joins up with the shoulder, and those are quite common, especially the further you get into your career. And so that's probably part of this. And then the other side of it is the kind of wear and tear abuse side. So we've talked a lot on the show about injuries to the labrum. That's that ring structure that sits around the socket. Good chance that he probably has a pretty beat up shoulder in terms of the labral injury, both from the contact aspect of it, but also just from the years of an incredible amount of throwing and volume to that shoulder. And then the last thing is you start to reach that point later in the career where even the rotator cuff can start to break down and become an issue. A lot of our long-term throwers' shoulders will have some wear and tear on that very front edge of their rotator cuff, and that can just start to progress, become more achy, start to become a biceps issue. And so those would be some things in the shoulder that I worry about for him. As you move down to the elbow, I would say in our quarterback population, not a super common place to have a lot of issues. Oftentimes what I'll see with our quarterbacks and elbows is more kind of taking a helmet, a contact injury helmet to the elbow on the outside or onto the electron on the back part of it. That'd be pretty sore. It's surprisingly rare to have like Tommy John type injuries in our quarterbacks, even though they throw so much. The throwing mechanism's different from that perspective. So it's not all that common to really see those. And so I would say that's probably less likely in this scenario.
When we talk about Kirk Cousins and his future, he said it's uncertain. Could back up Penix. I don't think he wants to do that. I know Atlanta probably doesn't want to spend that kind of money for a backup, but he still has some good football left if he can get healed up. I'm interested to know what's some healing things Cousins can do. Yes, rest, but as far as workouts or maintenance, what are some things that are likely for a guy in his mid-30s?
Yeah, so for him, obviously the important thing we talked about is rest. Rest is really key in his age group, so the off-season's got to be important there. The other things you want to work on is being able to maintain kind of that strength level, but you're not at a point where you're trying to put on some mass bulk or anything like that. You want to maintain that strength that you have. And then the other thing would be, just being cautious with, what are those weightlifting activities you're doing in the off-season? What kind of training are you doing to try to minimize just, again, some of that abuse that shoulder's going to take. So those are kind of the big things there. Also, if he's a gentleman that has a lot of this kind of labral wear and tear, again, that's that ring structure around the socket, as that labrum starts to break down, peel off the socket, that instability piece starts to become a factor here. So it'd be important, especially if he has a lot of labral wear, to be doing some stability programs post-operatively where they can help to mobilize his shoulder blade or his scapula, putting the shoulder into a different, better position for loading. So all those kind of things would be an important part of his kind of off-season rehab.
Dr. Brandon, we'll see if he goes the Tom Brady route with more band work versus weight room warrior type options. Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us, Nebraska Orthopedic Center. Jock Doc Wednesday, the ailments of Kirk Cousins as he tries to play more football in 2025. Dr. Brandon, take care. Thanks for a few minutes today.
Okay, fellas, take care.
% off. John Deere engineers its oil filters specifically for large ag equipment and commercial and residential mowers. With premium materials, these filters meet the unique demands of your farm and acreage. Following a strict maintenance routine with premium John Deere oil and filters ensures your equipment will run efficiently for years. Visit your local Acre store to start shopping today.
It's only a room with shelves and books, but it's far more magical than it looks. Hi, I'm Tim Royers, president of the Nebraska State Education Association and a big fan of libraries. Instill a love of books and learning by reading to your children and grandchildren. Doing so can create a lifelong habit that leads to exploration, knowledge, and a successful future.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Surprise! Your table saw broke. Also, the warranty expired weeks ago, so you need to pay for a new one out of pocket.
At Progressive, we know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Oh, and the replacement part you ordered doesn't fit, so it's completely useless. What a waste.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group. And I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney or if I look like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. At Wesley, we've helped over 40,000 families cancel their timeshare without me being an attorney. And I want to share with you how we do it. Just give my office a call, and you will not talk to an attorney. And I guarantee we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare, or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-714.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Big Red tips off 9:30 Big Red time zone. So get a cup of coffee, I guess, in honor of Seattle. Still minus 1.5.
That line does not move. Still -1.5.
So another nail biter. Get some friends, go to a bar, enjoy. What happens tonight, Justice? Break it down.
I look at it. I could see this going two ways, but I'm going to take this angle at it. I think Nebraska, they start. It's going to be bucket for bucket at the start. I think both teams trying to, go through that feeling out process. There's going to be a run somewhere in this game, probably in the late first half. And I think that's what ultimately kind of puts this one away. I think if the Big Red can get on top early, you get up double digits. Washington's a team that is not, adept at making comebacks.
They can fade and tap out.
They'll lay down if they take it to them. But then again, you know how it is. If you let a bad team hang around, you can get into some really dicey situations. And Washington coming off a one possession game with Minnesota that they were able to win. So, I think the Big Red win this one. I think it ends up kind of being nail biter. I think Washington tries a little shadow comeback at the end, but I think the Big Red win this one. I'm going to go 70-64.
Okay. 70 is the magic number, right? How
I feel like that is.
Much at 70 or above does the team you're playing get to, and is Nebraska able to get to 71st? Which has been big, and Nebraska with these tight ball games that didn't go their way against Iowa, didn't go their way against, Rutgers, didn't go their way. Who's the other team?
USC.
And USC, I mean, everyone kind of was on the SC wagon, and then they lost last night at Northwestern.
Yeah.
Really whacked out Northwestern team when we talk injuries. So I look at Nebraska right now, just keep easier said than done, but just from a discipline standpoint, sell out, play defense, rebound as a team like Coach Smith was talking about. Juan needs to get to the rim, right? Not get frustrated if it ain't falling early, but just keep attacking the rim. And Bryce, that's your ball, dude.
Yep.
You direct traffic, and Sam's been a nice spark.
Yeah, he has.
Game Dog checks in, says he saw Nebraska at -3. It's grown a little bit. Kobe says DraftKings -2.5 for Nebraska. So I'm going to say Nebraska 74-70.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, I think it gets a lot closer than people think, just because it's going to be a sleepy atmosphere in Alaska Airlines.
Well, the other part of it too is the wingspan, the length that Coach Smith talked about, with some guys that can guard, have the ability to guard and disrupt for Bryce. Bryce is able to shoot over a lot of dudes.
Yeah, at 6'7", yeah, with that wingspan, yeah, he can just gun it over.
He'll be counterpart with another guy that's 6'7", 6'8", trying to check him. So, who steps up for Nebraska? Kobe says Warhorse -2 Nebraska. So. I think it's a big Asian night. I think it's a big night for Morgan to start finishing at the rim like he did against Iowa. And those two things happen. Away you go. 3-game win streak. Ohio State looms. Maryland, Michigan, all at home. You can't stub your toe at Penn State and Northwestern either.
No, you cannot.
Justice, thank you much. Back tomorrow at 4. Joel Makovic going to join us.